Welcome to the Mo podcast.
A place where individual stories come to life.
This is how we need to be communicating with people. This is how we support people's personal development.
It's important to speak about people believing in people.
The more you're able to let go of your limitation, the more you step into your power, your inner authentic power.
Mo, a place for me, others, everyone.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Mo Podventures podcast. I am your host Kate and today I am joined by Andy Robinson, a queer late diagnosed ADHDer training to be as an aspirant in the tradition of Zen Buddhism. Today we're going to talk about growing up, not fitting in, the role mindfulness can play for those with attention deficit disorders, as well as the world we unlock when we understand ourselves and those around us. So thank you, Andy. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for your time. Firstly, we'll get started, Andy, in true Mo fashion, and I will ask you, without referencing your age, your job, or relationship to another human being, who is Andy?
I would say Andy is somebody who has a commitment to kindness, justice, and helping other people feel seen, and also is someone who has spent much of his life trying to understand why he felt different.
Oh, oh, I love that.
Good.
That's such a lovely answer. Do you feel like you're wanting to help others is obviously very aligned with Mo and being a coach?
Yeah.
Do you feel like because of knowing that about yourself and your intentions to, help other people feel like they belong to, you feel like it's an aligned mission between the two of you?
It is, yeah, absolutely. And I spent the vast majority of my working career working with other people in some form or other. So mainly in social care. I worked almost 40 years in social care, supporting people with learning disabilities and people with neurodiversity. So yeah, I've lived and worked in that community for much of my life, and started coaching professionally about a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So working with people has been, my lifeblood. And I think a lot of that comes from identification, that one of the things that comes with neurodiversity is an incredible empathy. We can feel other people's emotions as if they're our own.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's a natural understanding I've got, I think, as to where someone is, without assuming at the same time, because everyone's experience is unique.
No, I relate to that on a very deep level.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
No, that's so interesting that you've worked in social care and with people for 40 years, but you've only just started practicing coaching professionally a year ago.
Yeah. I'm an older person who's taken up coaching. In some ways, I think that's going back to my roots in a way, because I started in social care working, one-to-one with people, and then progressed through management, and then founded my own social enterprise.
Oh wow!
But now older. I'm 63 this year. I know.
Doesn't look it.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm hoping to get Botox for my birthday this year.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm joking.
Oh.
But I've sort of gone back to my roots, really, working on the one-to-one. And even in management in social care, and even in having the social enterprise, I always felt like a frustrated support worker, that my heart really is, working with the individual.
I'm sure we'll dive into that later, in what it's like to have come to coaching professionally later in life, and the wisdom that you have to give from the experience. It's all very interesting, but let's keep moving so that we can get to those juicy questions. So I will ask you, just as we start our opening, what do you want people to understand about you as a human being?
I think to understand about me, it's such a huge question. I mean, we could do a whole podcast on that. I think to understand me as an ADHDer, somebody with neurodiversity, that it's not all about inattention. The ADHD is an awful name for the condition because it doesn't really describe it. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is. I'm not somebody who's known for, being active and running around all over the place, but my head does, in here that people can't see. So I think a thing about perhaps hidden disability, that not all disability is visible. And that with ADHD comes so much. One of the biggest things, my primary traits with the neurotype is, rejection sensitivity dysphoria. And I've never been able to fully explain what that feels like, but you pick up on the most minute change in someone's inflection as they speak, or someone sends you a Christmas card with one less kiss than the year before, and you think your world's fallen apart. It's physical pain. It's physical pain. So understanding that disability can be hidden, and that it's more than just about inattention.
Interesting. Always room to learn. So I don't know if I've got it here, but when did you discover that you had ADHD?
Okay, so I said that I've worked with people with learning disabilities and also people with a neurodivergence for most of my adult life. I've always known. It's only in the past 2 years I've actually had a formal diagnosis. But when I first started, I can remember years and years ago, I'm talking decades ago, training around neurodiversity. The trainer started speaking, and it was like they were describing me, And I thought, okay, this answers a few questions. But it's only in the past couple of years where I was sort of been thinking about work direction and getting older and stuff. I thought, it made sense to seek out the official diagnosis. And that was like an interrogation, 2 hours in front of a psychiatrist being asked all these questions. And I had to fill out a form to describe my formative years, and people that knew me well had to do the same. It was quite an ordeal, really. But something I wanted to do because in some ways I did it for other people as well, because I wanted to be able to identify, as I said earlier, when I'm coaching people, I don't assume at all, but I do want people to feel seen, and that's and not just to feel seen, to feel felt. If you understand what I mean, that's really important. So the label helps, I think, in that respect as well. I'm not just coaching somebody with ADHD from a textbook. It's from lived experience as well.
Yeah. That's really, really good and really well attuned to, yourself, others, those that you're coaching, because there's a certain level of having to know yourself so that you can help others know themselves.
Absolutely.
Definitely how you are portraying, getting that diagnosis so that you can help others.
Yeah.
So, sorry, was there anything you wanted to say then?
I think it's just that I was just thinking as you were saying that, when you spent your whole life feeling different, believing that you were broken, that there's something wrong with you, that you're somehow less than everyone else. These are the things that we take on board. To be able to sit with a coach and discover, actually, there's nothing wrong with you at all.
Yeah.
I use the word disability only because the definition has the word disorder in it, but it's a neurotype. It isn't a disability. It's just our brains are wired in a different way. And you're right. Understanding yourself can change everything. And I found in my ADHD coaching, it isn't so much about how do I get this job, or how do I keep this job, or it's not so much about practical things. It's about who am I, and embracing myself. And seeing people do that and realize they have full permission to be who they are, and then experiencing a liberation really that comes with that is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Do you wish that the term ADHD didn't exist?
Yeah.
Rather, we were all just seen as different people who operate in different ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the same with sexuality, I'm a gay man, and the whole thing of coming out, which in some ways is incredibly important because visibility is so important. People need to see themselves represented, if you like. But why? Why do we have to do it? Why can we not just embrace individuality and accept that? And that's, without getting too political, that scares me about the times that we're living in just now, where those things are being questioned. Difference is being questioned. And people's right to be different, and just celebrating that, not tolerating it, but celebrating difference and realizing we all benefit from it. Diversity is enriching.
It's something that I learned about at university in a management module. Was that studies, literally having diversity in your teams is good, and that people will generally hire those that are similar to themselves, which obviously then creates people and everyone that agrees. But then for example, if you're creating a product and you've not thought about a specific demographic, or you've not thought about certain things, and then you create it and everyone's gone, oh no, that's great, that's a great idea, pat on the back, and then it creates a society that does not cater to everyone and only to a specific group. So just an ode to what you said about there being a lot of division at the moment, and that diversity should be celebrated.
Absolutely. The more diverse a team, the more productive it is, and there's so much evidence for that.
Cool. So obviously you've mentioned about not fitting in, and also being a gay man. So I want to ask what it would like, the idea of coming out and how it shouldn't be a thing, but it is a thing. And obviously it's Pride Month at the moment.
Yes.
Which in itself poses both great things but also is, some people have different relationships with Pride, don't they?
They do. Yes, they do.
The best way of me saying that. It doesn't fit in for some people that do identify as gay. So anyway, I'm asking you, what was it like growing up knowing that you were homosexual, and that you also didn't fit in because of your ADHD? What was that like for you?
It's a very good question to ask me, and my official answer is you need to buy my book, because I'm I'm in the very final stages of writing the story of the first 30 years of my life, because it was incredibly difficult, and I have no wish to offend anyone who belongs to a certain religion or anything, but I was brought up in a very evangelical Christian family where the world was black and white. There was no room for grey areas, let alone rainbow colours. And that bred fear in me. Fear, rejection. This, as I said earlier, this conviction that I was somehow wrong or broken, and emotionally and psychologically, that can be devastating. So and feeling different but not understanding why. Before I had words to express what being gay meant, I just knew that I was somehow different and swimming against the tide. Now I look back and I see sexuality and ADHD, playing a part, which is why I'm calling my memoir Meeting Myself at the Intersection, because that's where I found myself, at the intersection of sexuality, neurodiversity, religious trauma, all these things. So it was incredibly difficult. And I in the circles I was in those days, I was praying for healing because I thought I was sick.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was told, from the pulpit by the speakers, that, because I was gay, I was hellbound. And when you're a kid, you don't reason with it. You just believe an adult's telling you this, and therefore you take it in. You don't question it as a kid. So I was masking not just neurodivergence, but undiagnosed neurodivergence. I was masking, sexuality as well. And often it felt like everyone had been given a rule book that I didn't have. I didn't know I had no idea how to navigate life. I just knew that I can remember one night going to bed I don't know if I was in my early teens or what, but I was young. And having a really clear thought that my life was going to be one of swimming against the tide. I can remember feeling and thinking that. And at that age, it terrified me. I just couldn't understand how that would ever happen.
Yeah.
It happened actually in a very peculiar way, because I know I can talk forever, so be careful. You might need to tell me to shut up. But I'd met this guy, so I was still in the church. I was still, but at this point I was a leader, a youth leader.
Oh my God.
I know. Because I kept thinking that God was going to cure me. I even got engaged. I got engaged to a woman, thinking that, this was me, a step of faith and all of that. But I've actually forgotten my thread now.
You were talking to a man.
About?
You didn't say. Sorry.
It's completely. I've distracted myself. This is ADHD in action. All right. Working memory is a thing with ADHD. We forget mid sentence. What was I saying?
You're talking about how you were a youth leader and that.
That's right. How I got outed. So that's right. So yeah, and I met this chap. We were both, late teens. So actually, in those days, our relationship was illegal because the age of consent was 21. For God's sake, it hasn't been equalised for that long, really. And I'd been away with him. He was a student at Cambridge University, and he'd been sending me cards and things. And one of them said, there was a teddy bear on the front, and inside it said, "I can't wait to get my paws on you." And my mother went through my personal mail. She was thinking that, well, she told me that God told her to do it. That's how people operate, and still do in some Christian circles. And I had this phone call late at night from my father, on the King's College payphone, because it was in those days, ordering me home. And I was given an ultimatum. I could stand up in front of the church and repent, or have brain surgery, such was the Enlightenment in those days, to fix myself, or leave the house and the town. So I left the house and the town with nothing, with absolutely, literally nothing.
Gosh.
Yeah. So that's how. Now, with hindsight, I can look back now and say, actually, I'm glad that happened, because if that hadn't happened, it wouldn't have triggered a series of events that meant I met my life partner, and I've been with him for 35 years. But in the moment, that was trauma. That was trauma. Yeah. And certain things have happened later in life that have re-triggered that trauma. And I've had to learn how to look after that.
Yeah, when you talk about religious trauma,
Yeah,
and being told to repent, and
yeah.
I don't know if it was a lobotomy or brain
Yeah, I
surgery,
know. Yeah,
but
exactly.
oh my goodness, it's
Yeah,
actually madness to think in 2026
yeah.
that that is even a thing, because I grew up religious.
Okay.
Not now, but that's just also still insane to me. That, like, oh my gosh, that's just crazy. That is so crazy. That's, yeah, something I when we were talking about division earlier, it's the one thing that I dislike about religion, is that it divides people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you get told to love your neighbour, but that actually being in practice, yeah, we just all need to love one another.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
no, that
Yeah.
was so deep what you've just shared.
Well, yeah. Thank you. And it was traumatic. I grew up this sensitive child who felt things deeply. I believed everything felt as I did. This is one. I put this in my memoir that I can remember as I was about 7. And there was this big white stone on our drive, and I kept looking at it, thinking, that stone's lonely. It's all by himself. And I searched to find a stone similar and put that next to it. And you're not alone now. I can remember saying to it, "You're not alone now," because that was like a projection of my own inner loneliness, because I had no connection with who I was. I was just a series of facades for different people, and that's the thing with ADHD. You learn, because you're so convinced that you're broken and different and wrong. You learn how to mirror other people in other situations. Yeah. So you end up being almost multi-personality. You're different in different situations and with different people. Mm-hmm. And I can remember my mum saying, when I was in my early teens, "Will the real Andy Robinson please stand up?" And she has some insight into that. That I was, but it's how I navigated life and felt safe.
Yeah.
Our nervous system learns stuff to keep us safe.
Yeah. No, definitely relate to that. So what you've been saying about, feeling confused when you were younger, being told that you were wrong, and having your mum rifle through your mail and being given an ultimatum, whether you can repent, have a brain surgery, or, leave the house and town. When did you truly feel, if ever, that you'd found your true identity, and that you truly stepped into who Andy Robinson is meant to be, or who you truly are?
That's a really interesting question. When I was thrown out of home, I moved to Bristol, and my cousin and his wife kindly put me up for a little while. But everybody in the family was assuming that I was going to sort myself out and go back.
And just for context, sorry, how old were you when this happened?
21.
Yeah. Okay.
2021, something like that. Yeah.
So they were assuming you were going to go back home.
Yeah, they were assuming I was going to go back home, but that's what it was in Bristol. So I went to Bristol. We were living in Bristol with my cousin and his wife, and I found my tribe. Back in this is the days before the internet and mobile phones. I'd found a coffee club that met every Saturday morning in Bath, organised by a group called Gay West. I don't know if they still exist. They may well do. But there I began to find my tribe, and I had a sense of belonging that I hadn't experienced before. There was still an element of performance. I was still masking to a degree, but I was able at last to take a breath, take a breath and relax, and realize that I wasn't broken or different. There were other people like me. I wasn't the only one in the world. I've never met many people who have gone through the same religious trauma as I have, but that was the beginning of finding my community. Then I started working in social care. I realised I had to, start paying my way. And I literally had no money. I'm cutting a very long story short, but I'd use savings I had to go. I actually went to Bible college and stuff. I know. You need to read my book. So I had to earn money. And I saw this advert in the paper for a nursing auxiliary in a nursing home in Bristol for people who had various forms of dementia. And I knew that I liked people, enjoyed being with people, and particularly people who, I could reach out and support. So I applied for the job and got it. And within a month, I was promoted to a senior nursing auxiliary, and my social care career took off from there. So that was as important as finding a coffee shop in Gay West, which is where I met my partner. Because I found, this is a weird thing, what I was offering was of use.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was able to, what I gave to somebody else, which before had been labelled as wrong and dirty and filthy and, ungodly, suddenly was valued and treasured. And although I was working with older people and I was a youngster then, I empathised with what those people were experiencing, because they were having their own forms of rejection and isolation and loneliness. I can remember one lady, I talk about her in my memoir, Dorothy, she had Alzheimer's. She got married just before World War II and her husband was killed in the first few months of the war. She had no parents, no siblings, no children. She was totally on her own. And you watch her anxiety levels rise during the day. And she was, by the mid-afternoon, she'd be repeatedly calling out help, and that'd be getting louder and louder and louder. And what people did then was they would pop her in a wheelchair, which she didn't need because she was able to walk, wheel her into a room and leave her on her own in her room, so she couldn't disturb anybody else, which was, I just looked at that as a green as grass to social care. I thought, this can't be right. And I discovered that all she needed was a hug.
Oh,
seriously, yeah. If I gave her a hug, she instantly calmed. That human contact, someone there for her, and I say, "I'll go get you a cup of tea, Dorothy," and I go and do that, and she was okay for it. And I would just call back later and do the same thing again as she been. So yeah, I found, I found a community of people where you can. I've always felt my way through life. I haven't gone through life like from an academic textbook because I didn't understand it because it didn't apply to me. So I've always gone by my gut feeling. I always say I felt my way through life, and that's what I did in social care. Really, if somebody needed me, I was there.
Yeah, it sounds like you've already very well attuned through your neurodivergence to, other people's needs without, needing to ask or assuming. And it sounds like, getting a friend for the white rock and the drive in the same way that hugging Dorothy, was able to soothe her. I was trying not to have a little tear in my eye then.
Oh, bless you.
When you said that, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah. I've never forgotten her. Never forgotten
her. She just needed a hug, and I think sometimes they say that you should have a hug a day because it de-stresses you and it reduces your heart rate.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, that I can just imagine, being wheeled off into a room to be on your own because you're, exhibiting anxiety and all you need is a cup of tea and a hug. That sounds so simple yet so powerful.
Absolutely, yeah. She taught me a lot, and this is the thing I found in working with people. I've learned so much simply from being with others. I've learned more about neurodiversity from sitting with people who are neurodivergent than any course or textbook or exam or qualification, because it's a lived thing. So, you you want to meet the people who are living it and find out, from them. Because I have ADHD, but I can only talk about it from my experience. You meet somebody else with ADHD, and they probably have very different experiences.
Yes, I've experienced this. So I identify as having autistic traits. I'm not sure whether I have autism, but I've met several autistic people. And after I met one, I thought, right, I know autism now. It presents like this. And then I met another autistic person and I went, whoa, no, you don't fit the criteria. This is not what I've learned. And they were like, hey, I'm different. And I'm like, oh, it presents differently. Oh, right. Oh, it's not one size fits all. Oh, right, okay.
Which brings me back to my point of diversity. We are unique human beings. So this is why it's so important that we recognise and celebrate difference. And that true equality isn't about treating everyone the same. If we treat everyone the same, then we're going to discriminate.
Yes.
It's about equity. Recognising and supporting difference and people's right to be who they are.
Yeah, and having no assumptions or
absolutely
prerequisites or what's the word? Prejudice. Like with me, then assuming every autistic person or neurodivergent person or person with ADHD is the same, it's best to ask questions and be completely what's the word? Just neutral. Before you don't assume anything before you meet somebody, and ask the questions and be naive, and ask the questions before you make a assumption.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
cool. So let's move on through to all the other great things that you're getting on with. I do want to talk about a little bit, lean into your ADHD specific coaching, but firstly, just want to ask, how does the work that you do today speak to or soothe your younger self? Because I can imagine, like the work that you do helping others, helps people who have been through similar or going through similar. How does the work that you do today speak to or soothe your younger self?
So my younger self was, as I said, incredibly sensitive. My sister used to bring home countless friends. I used to bring home the kid at school who needed to have a decent meal. So that was what I used to do. So I've felt things deeply. So I think working with people now on a one-to-one basis, people with ADHD on a one-to-one basis, who are just trying to, because I said before, ADHD is less about inattention. It's more about regulation. How do I calm my nervous system? So I've learned those skills. I've learned how to look after myself. I still get it wrong from time to time. I still fall over. But I can sense now when a button's been pushed. I sense triggers and how they can fire for me. So I can take care of that earlier, so it doesn't fully manifest, if you like. So supporting others to do that is like giving people the prescription that I never had, if that makes sense. So I've worked with people 18 and above, and I've worked with some youngsters and been able to work with them and give them those, or not give them, allow them to develop their own tools and strategies. Does soothe my inner child, and I've learned to befriend my inner child. So my inner child I call Andrew, because Andrew was the name I was given by my parents, and they didn't approve of me shortening it to Andy. Andy in many ways was a creation of my own, really. But I've now learned that my feeling centre comes from Andrew. And it's Andrew who feels. It's Andrew who wants to roar sometimes, and it's also Andrew who wants to purr like a kitten sometimes. And Andy sort of tries to work as a moderator. And I've been able to integrate the both,
Yeah.
But that's only through awareness, practice and self-awareness, and really looking deeply into myself and discovering, okay, this is what's going on, and this is what this part of me needs. So helping other people, not me telling them what they need,
Yes,
but encouraging them and inviting them to explore that for themselves and find out that for themselves. I was working with somebody yesterday, and they were talking about an experience that only the week before was a disaster for them, and they really didn't know what to do. And after our coaching session, they'd gone away and put a few things in place. And when I asked how their week had gone, they were just full of how they managed this, a similar situation without any fallout, and just seeing that and hearing that, does soothe my ears. It makes Andrew smile.
Yeah, I think like going to a young person and, like you say, enabling them to create tools for themselves to go through life in a way where they feel like they have a sense of belonging, but can also, maneuver through life in a way that is a good direction for them, in a positive way to move through life in that belonging, so that they can move forward and grow into a, healthy, happy human being. Yeah. And, having known your journey, and, was not a great way, in the way that you were treated into becoming a happy, healthy Andrew. And, you've overcome so many barriers, like you said, with religious trauma. So I can only imagine how soothing it must be for a young person who really feels lost in the world to know that someone has, really been through it and got through the other side and found themselves. Must be really inspiring.
Yeah, it is. It is. And validating, because you move from this person who's convinced they're somehow different and wrong to realizing that the insight that I've gained over the years actually can liberate others. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So another bit of context around Andy is that I don't know if you're still studying to become an aspirant in the Plum Village tradition of Zen Buddhism.
Yeah.
But you're also an ADHD coach, but also not exclusively ADHD. You also help anyone wanting, and I love this, to be handed a rope and be lifted through the fog.
Yeah.
Which is just a great metaphor, really, for helping people create tools that they need.
Yeah.
Could you tell me about the ADHD specific coaching and coaching in general, and the differences? So you've used the word scaffolding before. Could you tell me more about what is at play there?
Okay. So ADHD coaching differs from traditional coaching in a number of ways. And I guess you could say that perhaps traditional coaching assumes people can reliably execute plans, whereas ADHD coaching knows that knowing what to do and doing it are actually entirely different things. So ADHD coaching sort of embraces executive function, emotional regulation, accountability. Often people come to me and say, I'm coming to coaching because I just want someone to be accountable to, and self-understanding. So self-understanding is one of the biggest differences. So when people come to me for ADHD coaching, it's therapeutic coaching, really, because it is about their feelings. It is about giving permission to feel what they're feeling, understanding that what they're feeling isn't, alien. They're not somehow wrong or broken. They don't need fixing. It's not my job, and it isn't my job as the coach to fix them. I say it's my job. This is about the rope in the fog, is supporting someone to realise they actually don't need fixing.
Yeah.
As they are in this moment, they are absolutely valid and, and lovable. That's a big thing for people too.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes people come to me and say, I'm coming to coaching because I just want to be living in peace, free from all this inner turmoil and all the row of a deregulated mind sometimes.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, sorry, okay, go on.
I know I jumped a question then. I'm going to go back if you want me to talk about mindfulness in ADHD.
Yeah.
So obviously I just wanted to talk more about the ADHD coaching, but you've mentioned about how mindfulness plays a big role in your life, and I guess the average person wouldn't think about mindfulness and ADHD marrying well together. But you obviously talk about how it shaped your life. So could you talk about how it works for you?
Yeah. It's funny because I sort of landed in the ADHD coaching world, and mindfulness has been so central to me. Mindfulness has been really central to my self-regulation, being able to regulate myself to the point where my blood pressure pills were halved.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was just able to calm down. And I landed in the ADHD coaching world and discovered that mindfulness is absolutely Marmite in that community. To mention it to some people and they're like run 100 miles an hour in the other direction. I mention it to somebody else and they're embrace it. And I understand why. And often the people that run have a view of mindfulness that it's about emptying your mind, that it's about, the image we have of the meditator, all calm and seated, by the pile of rocks in the sea, caressing the shore, and all of that. And it isn't that, I meditate, but I still struggle with meditation because my head is all over the place. But mindfulness is about recognizing that. Okay, my mind's doing that. It's going there. And having a childlike curiosity. What's that about then? Not condemning yourself, not judging yourself, not criticizing yourself, but saying, why has that thought come up? And just having a childlike curiosity about stuff. And that's helped me stop fighting myself. And one of the scaffolding, or part of the scaffolding, if you like, in my ADHD coaching is supporting people to arrive at that place where they realize they're not broken and what they're thinking and feeling is okay, and just learning to be comfortable with that, not fighting their own nervous system. That's a big thing. But us ADHDers have spent most of our life fighting our nervous system because we've been told that we're somehow wrong. And we look at other people and other situations and we think, to fit in there, I have to be like this. So we're suppressing everything all the time, trying to be somebody that we're not. Mindfulness has helped me understand why my nervous system works in the way it does. And when I understand it, or when I see it and I understand it, then I can have compassion towards it. Yeah. Without the understanding, there's no compassion. And so that's why a big part of my coaching is introducing people to themselves in a very real way, and seeing that light bulb moment. That's why I do that, and then, so I don't, I have supported, in ADHD coaching, I have done some mindfulness meditation with people, but I would say that's rare. That's rare, but I do use those self-awareness skills and tools that I've learned, introducing people to their body, You know, okay, that thought, when you receive that thought, when that thought arises in your head, what happens? Well, that thought triggers a feeling. Where in your body are you feeling that? You know, and I have had quite a significant number of ADHD clients who live very separate from their body. You know, we live in our heads. James Joyce, the famous author, in one of his books, I think the opening line about his key character in this short story, the character's called Mr. Duffy, and the opening line is something like, Mr. Duffy lived a short block from his body. And that's how we can live. But that means we ignore all this stuff that's going on. So we live with hyper anxiety, hyper stress. But when we realize, okay, when that thought comes into my head, I actually feel it in my solar plexus, or I feel it in my chest. Okay, I can just relax that area a minute.
Yeah.
You know? And that is a mindfulness practice. I'm aware of it. I'm just letting go. I'm going to let go of that stress. And you can do that anywhere.
Yeah, that's beyond powerful. Because when you think about, like, one, I entirely understand what you were talking to when you mentioned mindfulness and meditation and, you know, having thoughts pop around everywhere, and people that say, oh, I couldn't do that because, you know, when we're in meditation, my head's all over the place. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
You know, recognizing that, and, you know, no one's perfect, and that we do have all these thoughts, and learning the meaning behind them or calming them down. But what you were saying then about living outside of our bodies or separate from our bodies, and so often I think stress shows up for people in physiological ways, and anxiety. You know, and someone might get a rash, or they might have gastrointestinal issues, or their hair might fall out. You know, none of these are from experience. And you think they are entirely separate to what is going on in your brain. But when you realize that everything is interconnected, which is so simple, but it is, what you're saying in your mindfulness practice, and that, you know, you will recognize something that is going in your body, or you'll help a client a coachee who is experiencing this, and that education piece around self-soothing and that meditation and mindfulness, especially in nowadays when everyone is unfortunately more stressed. The importance of that work, you know, I don't really have the words to describe it. It's just really important.
It is. I say it's absolutely vital, and introducing people to the fact that you can build space. You can create a space between the feeling and the reaction. You know? So that, which means we can stop living on autopilot, which I was doing for years. I can remember, I'm going back probably about 25 years or so, when I was working for the local authority, managing services for people with learning disabilities. And I used to drive home, and I would drive home by a supermarket. So I used to shop every day as opposed to like do a weekly shop or a monthly shop. And when you do that, and lots of people do that, you get to know the checkout people. So, you know, you'll chat away. And one day I was taking my groceries through the shop, and this woman said, the checkout woman said, she said, we got a nickname for you, you know. And I said, oh, really? You know, do enlighten me. Tell me what this is. And she said, we call you the running man. You don't walk anywhere, do you? She said, you run. And that was the first insight I had into my living on autopilot. And that was ADHD in action, you know. Everything was a rush. I must do it now because I can't live in the now. My head is in the next moment, you know. So learning to live in the present moment has been a practice. And that's the thing with mindfulness. It's a practice, you know. You don't pick up a violin on a Monday and play the Royal Albert Hall on a Wednesday. It doesn't happen, you know. You practice. So through that practice, you create that space, which means you can breathe. I can just relax. I can take a breath, and I don't have to run around Morrison's or wherever it is.
For which we become better people, better partners, better employees, better friends, better family members. and better friends to ourselves as well, when we can be more present and treat ourselves with kindness through those practices.
Yeah. That's a real thing in mindfulness, because self-compassion is a radical act. It's something that we're not at all good at in the West. And I was hopeless at it, but particularly with my upbringing, where I was, from the first words I could hear, probably heard, were I was a sinner bound for hell, in my upbringing. So you don't feel you deserve self-compassion, which is why I say understanding is key. If you go, oh, that's why I do this, or that's why I think that or feel that, when you understand it, you can say, how would I treat a best friend who was coming to me with this issue? Yeah. And treat yourself like your own best friend. Yeah. I'm a gay man, so obviously I love Liza Minnelli, and she sings a song called My Best Friend, My Own Best Friend.
Cool. Well, let's talk about how you came to find Buddhism, because that's an entirely new, different thing in, a different way of religion in a completely different space. Another way of finding yourself and finding a community and belonging. So what does Buddhism mean to you, and how does it tie into your coaching, if it does?
Okay. Yeah. Yes, it does. It does. So I found mindfulness first. So secular mindfulness, if you like. And I did a qualification where I qualified to teach mindfulness in professional practice. So, I can go into workplaces and support people and work with entrepreneurs and just introduce mindfulness as a way of managing their own stress, but also getting clarity on where they on where they want to be.
Amazing.
Or need to be. And then I started listening to podcasts. Here we are making a podcast. And I discovered this guy called Jack Cornfield, who is an American chap who was a Buddhist monk for years in the forest tradition. So he used to live in the forests. Ajahn Chah was his teacher. He was a famous Buddhist monk. And he just used to talk, he still does, talk so beautifully about the practice. And he would his words were key and I talked about integration and reconciliation, in my bringing Andy and Andrew together, stopping. What I learned in very basic terms is to stop running, the running man, stop running from fears or thoughts of and feeling that I'd failed in the past, or anxiety of the future. And that actually I could rest. I could just stop and rest in the present moment. And a quote that Jack Cornfield used to give so often was, let's see if I can remember it. Praise and blame, gain and loss, pain and sorrow, fame and disrepute come and go like the wind. To be truly human, stand still like a giant tree in the midst of them all. And that's what I learned, that feelings, emotions, perceptions, all this stuff, they are impermanent. They come and they go. So I can be feeling really anxious about something, but actually if I sit with that as opposed to run from that, that's going to go in a few moments, you know. So just breathe and let it go. It's just like like a bird passing through the sky, or a cloud passing through the sky. That's one of the key things I learned. I was able to take a breath. And so Buddhism to me isn't so much as a religion. It's not that I've replaced Christianity with Buddhism. Buddhism is a way of life. It's it's recognizing, and you talked about it earlier about interconnectedness. Nothing is separate. Everything depends upon everything else. We look at a flower and we say, okay, that's a flower. When you really look at a flower, you realize there's sunlight in there, there's moisture in there, there's minerals in there, the soil's in there. If you took the soil away, there wouldn't be a flower. Everything needs everything else.
Yes.
And we are just the same. We are interconnected and we interpenetrate and we're interdependent, So yeah, it's helped me enormously with managing my suffering on a day-to-day level, which is exactly what Buddhism is about. The Buddha talked about a way he discovered, and he was a human being. He wasn't a god; he was a human being who found a way of reducing the suffering he experienced as a human being, and in consequence, reducing the suffering that other people experience because of him.
Yeah.
So when I'm with a coachee, I don't say to them, "You must be Buddhist," but I do bring that experience, my own experience of interconnectedness, of how my pain reduced by reconciling myself with myself, integrating all the different parts of me that were fighting each other, no longer fighting my nervous system, but working with it through understanding it. That intricate knowledge and intimate knowledge of myself, So questions I often ask in coaching are things like, so tell me how that felt. And where did you feel that? And what did you do when you felt that? And what happened when you did that? So it's, it's all those sort of questions, really. And that's when people have the light bulb moments. Oh, yeah. God, when I feel that, I do this. No wonder that keeps happening.
Yeah.
Because we realise that once we have that insight, we can see the various loops that we live in. And we do live in loops, And my loop was that fear of rejection, expecting rejection at every moment. So therefore working overtime to please and to impress. So therefore if things went wrong, I became the ultimate fixer. And sometimes situations and people didn't want me fixing them. but I was there anyway, getting in the way and causing all manner of mayhem. Getting that insight into we can't fix what we don't know. And self-awareness brings that light. But the key thing is without judgment,
Yes.
When I first discovered mindfulness, I went through a brief period of I wish I'd never heard of it, because I was seeing all this stuff going on inside of me. And I was condemning myself all over again. And then I learned that the twin of mindfulness is compassion. Yeah, you have it's mindfulness and compassion. So when you notice something, you don't meet that with judgment or criticism. You meet it with compassion. And I talked about Jack Cornfield. I then discovered a guy called Thich Nhat Hanh who Jack Cornfield talks about a lot. So I thought I would go to the horse's mouth. And Thich Nhat Hanh, known as Thai, which is Vietnamese for teacher, he basically introduced mindfulness to the West, and he talks at length about compassion, and he talks. He says when you truly understand yourself, then you can be compassionate towards yourself, and when you truly understand the other, you can bring compassion to the other. And he talks about deep listening, which is what coaching is.
Yes.
He talks about listening deeply with all that you are, and that's a key thing I bring. I think I bring to my coaching is the ability to listen, and then loving speech, aware of the words that we use and how those words might land for others, how they can impact. So you treat everyone as if they have your face, because if you really believe in interconnection, interdependence, interpenetration, then everybody does have your face. There is no separation.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's really cool. You shared a lot of really nice insights there. I feel like you've delved into your coaching and how you help others meet themselves and help them have tools to navigate life and have compassion for themselves as well as yourself, and you've mentioned releasing things from your sexuality and that sense of belonging, and finally having compassion for yourself and having mindfulness and all those different thoughts, and how you've met yourself later in life where you truly are and are meant to be. So I don't feel like I need to dig deeper into those questions because you've answered them all on your own, which is really nice to be in the flow. So if someone is listening right now and resonates with anything that you've said and is feeling stuck or scared or like they're not belonging or not with direction or scared of changing their life in any way, what is it that you would like them to know?
I would say right now you are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need fixing. You are a valuable human being right now, in this moment. And also that you're not alone. It's so easy to feel isolated. Loneliness was the big thing for me. That was putting those two stones together, as a child. And that lived with me for forever. And that sense of inner loneliness is so painful. So I would say reach out. There are people out there who understand. There's a community out there, the ADHD community, the neurodivergent community, the LGBTQA plus community. We exist, and we're there for people. So you are of worth and value, and that's key. And there is a way to be free of the grief, the isolation that comes with thinking you're the only one that feels this way.
Yeah. It's very strange also when you do share your story and talk about it. It ripples and you find a big tribe of people who have all been through things. And even if you think what you've been through is really nuanced, there's always, like you said, you don't think you've found anyone with similar religious trauma. I've got like a really nuanced trauma and I thought no one had ever experienced it. And then I spoke about it online and it went viral because apparently it was really common. Which was so strange. So you never know.
Yeah. And I have found that through, I create content, I post videos on TikTok mainly, but YouTube and Instagram, and I remember, and whenever I do, I get engagement, and what I keep hearing again and again and again is I feel seen, because there are lots of people out there and they have their place. I'm not being critical, who produce neurodivergent videos around humour and stuff like that. I talk in my videos about what I've been sharing with you today, but obviously in 60-second segments. And people feel seen. That's the thing, people, and that is the starting point. People feel seen. There's someone who gets me. And I have, believe it or not, from posting videos on TikTok, I've received coachees, because they felt seen.
Amazing.
And wanted more of that. It's amazing.
Yeah. So people that are listening that want to get involved, see the things that you do. We will put all your details in the bio of the podcast in the show notes.
Oh, thank you.
But do you want to plug any specific thing to do with like your book coming out or your TikTok handle or anything like that right now?
Yeah. So the organisation I've founded now is Insight to Excellence. That's Insight Figure 2 Excellence, all one word. And that's my handle on TikTok. And insighttoexcellence.com is my website.
Awesome.
Yeah, and people can contact me through there. And I hope that Insight to Excellence is about coaching brings insight. I don't give people insight; they experience insight, and then they can live their life to their full potential, which is the excellence bit.
Brilliant, cool. Is there anything else you want to close with or add? There's no pressure to, just so that I know I've done my job properly.
Yeah, I am still working on my memoir, which will hopefully be called Meeting Myself at the Intersection. It's going through its editing stages at the moment, so probably in a month or two I'll be looking into publishing. Yes, it is exciting.
Awesome. Grateful, to Andrew and Andy for being here today, and really grateful for your time and all the insight that you have shared.
Thank you. It's been great to be here. Thank you.
Hello everyone, and thank you for listening to this episode of Mo Podventures. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, please leave us a review on where you get your podcast and let us know what you thought. If you have felt compelled today and listened to someone's story and you would love to share your story, we want to hear from you. So please do send us an email at info@mofoundation.com and get in touch. We would love to feature you. You can also join us on Substack for more conversations around this episode and other topics. So take a look at what we've got to say and join in on the conversation. You can also, if you want to hear more from us, subscribe to Mo News, which you can find on the website, where you can get us in your pocket, in your email. We tell you everything that's going on at Mo. That's all for now from me. Hope to hear from you next time. Until then, bye.